Good morning, good morning, morning. It is Friday, the 20th of June, 2025. I'm Graham Hughes. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. Welcome, welcome. If you'd like to join the chat with our beautiful socialites here, we've got Paula, Veg Pie, we've got Scott, we've got Diz, we have got Alice Sturm in the chat, we've got Vegan Elite is in there as well, Anne Phillips, and Liz Allen, and others. If you'd like to join them, all you need to do is hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. We only need about 130 more subscribers, and we hit 42,000 subscribers to the channel, which would be all kinds of wonderful. So if you could let your friends know, say there's this crazy ginger person from Liverpool who just goes on a big mad rant about stuff every morning at 9 o'clock, and it's weirdly cathartic. I think. I don't know. Well, it is for me. What can I say? So today we're going to be talking about something that's quite close to my heart, which is the assisted dying bill. For various reasons. I've always thought that, you know this if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, I am a great believer in bodily autonomy. I believe that this meat vessel, this skeleton with a ghost inside it operating this, fleshy nonsense, is yours. Your body should be yours to do with as you please, so long as it's not hurting anyone else. As long as you are a sane adult, I think you should be allowed to do what the you like. Simple as that. If you want to get a stupid tattoo, get a stupid tattoo. If you want to have give birth to an ungrateful child, give birth to an ungrateful child. That's fine. If you don't want to give birth to an ungrateful child, fine. Have an abortion. That's your body. It's your choice. And this goes for taking drugs. It goes for smoking. It goes for anything else. It goes for drinking, right? But once you drink and then you drive, then you're breaking the law. If you smoke anywhere near me, I'll make you feel really bad about it because I don't like it, because it stinks. It's disgusting. But if you want to do it in the comfort of your own home and I don't have to smell it, doesn't affect me, you're doing that to your own body. You're putting literal radioactive materials inside your own lungs, which seems like a daft thing to do, but what do I know? I'm just a scouser. Francis Winrow, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Payday gift. Oh, thank you so much, Francis. That is very kind of you. And One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. The blessed Frigg's Day to all ye wonderful badgers. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. Big shout out to Vicky Foxcroft, resigned over Labour's benefit cruelty. Vicky Foxcroft was a Labour whip, and she, I think she was the shadow minister for disabled people, I think, in 2020. But yeah, there's got to be a hell of a rebellion there. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. I reckon there's way over 100 Labour MPs who's just going to be like, no, I can't do this. For various reasons. Right, anyway, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the assisted dying bill. So, just to preface this, I believe that I believe in bodily autonomy. And as long as no one's coerced into a situation, no one's forced to get a shit tattoo, no one's forced to have a child, no one's forced to have an abortion, no one's forced to have euthanasia done to them. I was going to say committed euthanasia, but that's not quite how it works, is it? But yeah, forced to go to the Dignitas clinic in Switzerland. That's my genuine belief. As long as you're not being coerced into it, and there are robust laws put in place, and it is your decision, I really don't understand, and I'd like someone to explain it to me like I'm an idiot, because I kind of am, why a dog who is in pain can be put down, put to sleep, but a human being who is in pain for weeks, months, maybe years, why they can't have the dignity of just going to sleep with their family around them at a time of their choosing. I don't understand that at all. Okay, so the assisted dying bill, it was formerly known as the terminally ill adults (end of life) bill, faces its final vote in the House of Commons today. So this was brought forth in November of last year. No, October last year. It passed the second reading with a 55 vote majority in November. So it was introduced in October. It was voted on in November, and it was 330 in favour. It was 275 against. It was a free vote. There were no party whips. Keir Starmer supported it. I think last year that Kemi Badenoch supported it, but now she's saying she's going to oppose it. And this is the most significant moment for assisted dying legislation in UK history. So today we're going to be talking about the history of the bill, who's for it and who's against it. I want to talk a lot about the class and inequality dimension to all this, which I allude to in the title of the show. What's changed in the bill since November and the broader implications, the moral, legal, political, and economic implications of all this. So what I want to talk about first is what the bill actually says. This applies to adults who are terminally ill with less than 6 months to live. They need to be mentally competent and they need to be over 18, living in England or Wales and registered with a GP for at least 12 months. The process involves 2 independent doctors assessing the patient, a reflection period, 7 days between assessments, 14 days after approval, and it's now judged by a 3-person panel, which will be a senior legal figure, psychiatrist, and social worker instead of a High Court judge, because obviously the High Court judges, I think they've got a lot on their plate at the moment as it is, so this is a better way of doing it. And it's got to be self-administered. Now, here's the mad thing, okay? That happens anyway. As someone who has known people very close to me who have died of cancer, it isn't the cancer that kills them, okay? They're given a morphine syringe thing and they push it and it puts morphine through the drip and into their system. And when it looks like they're coming to the end, they take off the limiter. So most people who die in a hospice of cancer usually just the pain becomes so unbearable that they just keep pressing the button and putting more morphine into their system and they just go to sleep. So that happens anyway, but it's a legal grey area, which I'll come to in a moment. There's a strong emphasis in this bill on consent, capacity, and voluntary decision making. So here's my skin in the game. As some of you know, my dad has suffered from vascular dementia for almost 10 years now. 2016, he was diagnosed. What a fucking horrible year that was. And in September 2020, he had to go to hospital. We then all got COVID because of the fucking Tories not actually putting things in place to protect elderly people who were vulnerable from getting COVID. Me and my mum got it, and my dad got it as well. And since then, he has been bedbound. So he's been living at my parents' house in Liverpool. He's been in the living room in a hospital bed, and he has carers coming 4 times a day. And that's been going on now for 5 years, right? Now, whatever happens today, that's not going to affect my dad's case because he is terminally ill, but there's no way of saying whether he's got less than 6 months to live. We were told back in September 2020 that he might not survive another few weeks, and here he is 5 years later, still with us, which is amazing. But they wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to say, right, well, no, this is an inconvenience to us. We want to get rid of my dad, and so we're going to go to the doctor and go to a High Court judge, and they're going to get an order. And no, it doesn't work like that. Also, because my dad isn't compos mentis, because he's got dementia, he's non-verbal, he couldn't consent to this, right? So in my dad's case, this couldn't happen anyway, right? But in cases where it's been cancer, there's only X amount of time to live, you're in the hospice, there's no way out. Being able to choose the time and the place and the people around you when you go, I feel is so, so important. And one thing that I will carry as a regret for the rest of my life is that I wasn't there when my sister went. My mum was, my nephew, her eldest son was, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there, and I really feel like I should have been. But you don't know. If someone had said, Nikki's got to go next Saturday, I would have been there on Saturday to be with her, to hold her hand. So it's not just cruel on the people who are living at the end of their life, being tortured by their own body, being tortured every minute they are awake by their own body. Why are we torturing people who are ill? Why are we torturing people who are going to die a few months down the line? So the argument against this, to me, I just can't see it. And maybe someone in the chat can tell me why there is a good argument against this, but I just really can't see it. And this bill does, like I say, it has a strong emphasis on consent, capacity, and voluntary decision making. And new offences are created by this bill, including coercion, falsifying documents, or undue pressure. I completely agree with that. Again, this should be a person's own individual decision. No one else should come into it. And the NHS staff can opt out if they have moral objections to it, which is fair enough. And I hate that this needs to be said, but this needs to be put in the bill. There is a ban on advertising services for euthanasia. None of those suicide booths from Futurama. Okay, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. There are worries about some of the amendments and changes to Leadbeater's original bill. Some safeguards removed or something. No, One Angry Pagan, the way I see it is that the safeguards have been, the sensible safeguards have been bolstered, and the daft safeguard, which is that you needed a decision from a high court judge, have been gotten rid of. Like, that was a ridiculous thing that essentially, I'll come to this later, but at the moment, if you want to, if you want to be euthanized, right, and you're rich, you can just go to Switzerland. You go to Dignitas. The option's there. I'll come back to that. But yeah, it's. I don't know if it's going to go ahead. It might. God, it might not win. It might not get through by like one vote, and that would be disgraceful. So yeah, just to go on to what One Angry Pagan was asking about there. So removal of High Court oversight, and that's replaced by a panel of 3 experts. And the delay in implementation period is going to be doubled from 2 years to 4 years to get everyone ready for this, which is really shit for the likes of Esther Ranson, who hasn't got 4 years to live. But they've decided to delay it for 4 years to make sure everything's in place before it goes ahead. They've strengthened the conscience protections for medical staff. They've added the advertising ban, which, like I say, it shouldn't even need to be there because you'll think that was a given, but, so there's money to be made, especially in suffering, you know what some people are like. And critics have said that this weakens the safeguards, but I don't see that at all. I think that it makes it more robust, and I think it makes the whole thing fairer, because if you can afford the legal services that can get your case before a high court judge, you're going to go to the front of the queue. Whereas the rest of us, yeah. So let's go through who supports it and who disagrees. Don't get me wrong, I do support this bill. Yeah, I didn't think that you didn't. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the super chat. No, I wasn't intonating that you didn't support it. You were just asking about the watering down of it. But I don't see that. I think it's actually been strengthened in some ways. And made more equal, But don't forget, my friends, when you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. So who supports it and who doesn't support it? So Kim Leadbeater, or Leadbeater, is the bill's sponsor. She's Joe Cox's sister, the MP who was shot dead 9 years ago in the run-up to the Brexit referendum, the fraud-referendum. She was murdered and shot and stabbed by a man screaming Britain first as he killed a mother of 2. Really lovely MP, really lovely person. Anyway, that's our sister. So there is a broad support from the public for this in polling, and I think that looking at the messages here, a lot of people will feel kind of the same way. Paula Thomas, some disabled people, not me, fear it will lead to coercion, which won't be picked up by the process. Yeah, I completely understand that, Paula, and that's why I'm very. It needs to be robust. It needs to be seriously robust so that that coercion can't happen. And if it does, the people who coerce people like that go to jail for the rest of their lives. Like, that is shown to be completely out of order and tantamount to murder. Yeah. So, or attempted murder. So yes, I agree, Paula, to some extent that there is that fear of coercion, and you could imagine, people who don't want to be a burden to their family, and that's why I think it's important that this decision is made by medical professionals, a psychiatrist, which I think is a really important factor here, because they could dig into what is the reason why this person wants to end their own life. Is it because they're in constant pain, which I think is the good reason for wanting to end your own life, or is it because you don't want to be a burden to your loved ones, which I don't think is a good reason. I honestly, I don't want to be a burden, and I'm sure there's lots of other people who don't want to be a burden, but I don't think that's a good reason. I think the reason needs to be that you are in chronic, absolute pain every minute of every day, and you're going to die anyway. I just don't see the point of prolonging life for the last 2 months of your life to be in absolute agony, to be in constant pain and suffering. I just do not see, I don't see why we have a system that makes it so that your own body gets to torture you for 2 months before you die. That in my head is just crazy. Like, it's so grossly immoral. It pains me to think about it. So yeah, Esther Ranson, famously broadcaster, and she's terminally ill. She's campaigned for this. The Dying in Dignity in Dying group, they're right to die advocates. And the opposition is coming from religious lobby groups who say this is a bad bill because, some religious people, not all religious people, some religious people love a bit of suffering. They just love it, especially when poor people suffer. Because don't forget, this is really important when we debate this, when we talk about this. Rich people get this anyway. Rich people can do this, okay? I'm going to keep saying that throughout the show today, because you've got to really understand that it is a little bit unfair that rich people can fly to Switzerland and don't have to be tortured by their own body for the last 2 months of their life. Whereas in the UK, if you're not rich, if you don't have the money to fly to Switzerland and pay for an expensive private clinic, then you have to be tortured by your own body for the last few months of your life. So Kemi Badenoch has said that she's not going to vote for it. She hopes that her MP's not going to vote for it either. She said it's a bad bill and the NHS is not prepared. 4 years. There's got to be a 4-year gap between this bill getting the royal assent and it actually going into action. 4 years. Yeah, I think the NHS can be prepared in 4 years. 4 Labour MPs have recently switched to oppose. They are Marcus Campbell Savers, Kanishka Nayarian, Paul Foster, and Jonathan Hinder. And 50 Labour MPs recently demanded more time for debate. Fears include moral objections, safeguarding concerns, potential pressure on vulnerable patients, which is why I say that the coercion law needs to be very, very strong on this. And that thing of like, when people go in and talk to their psychiatrist, hopefully the psychiatrist can get out of them whether they actually want to go through with this or whether they're doing it because they feel like they have to, because their family putting pressure on them. But here we go. This is the meat of my argument, and I hope that I can take you with me on this. Whether you fundamentally agree with this or whether you fundamentally think there's something wrong with euthanasia, this is the issue here at the heart of it. The rich can have this service. You can't. So, rich people can fly to Dignitas in Switzerland. They can get private end-of-life care with dignity. They can access mental health support to process terminal illnesses. They can access mental health support, full stop. The rest of us don't get that. They can consult expensive lawyers and specialists. They can receive quality palliative care quickly and privately because they can afford it. They can live anywhere in Europe because they're rich and they can afford it. You can't. We've been given these shitty fucking black passports, don't even fucking work. Allow us to go to Europe for a fucking couple of weeks. The rich, they can go and live in Europe. They can go and move to a country where they already have an assisted dying bill. A place where the assisted dying bills are more compassionate. They can do that. Now, today, you can't. This is the problem. I mean, look, the rich can go and live and work anywhere in Europe or anywhere in the world. They can get drugs. They can get illegal drugs without fear of being harassed or going to jail. How many celebs have we seen bragging about their cocaine addictions? Like, if you imagine someone from the sticks, someone from the estates in Bootle, you know, getting a cocaine addiction, they'll end up in jail. Of course, they'll end up in jail. They're not rich. The rich get away with it, you know. And this doesn't just go for sort of the obvious stuff that they're always going about, you know, like the fact that the rich told us to go and vote for Brexit, and at the same time they can live anywhere in Europe. We can't. They've taken that from us. They've taken that right that we had. They've taken it from us. But also think about stuff like rehab. You know, you're struggling with addiction. If you're poor, well, I say poor, I just mean you're not part of the 7% who like run everything in this country. If you're normal, you can't necessarily afford rehab. It could be months before you could get to it could be years before you get to see someone, a mental health specialist. If you're poor, the chances are you're going to go to jail for that addiction. Whereas you're rich, you go to rehab because you can afford it. And check into the Priory. And this goes for abortions in America. You know, abortions where, you know, if you're rich, if your little rich white princess is raped, especially if she gets raped by a black man, and then she wants an abortion, and you live in Texas, if you're rich, you can fly to another country and get the morning after pill. Or get the surgical procedure if it's a bit later on. I mean, you can do that. You can do that. You can fly anywhere in the world. You can pay someone to do it. It's just for everybody else. And this is what drives me up the fucking wall. Even gender-affirming care. We now have this huge disparity now between trans children who are born to, you know, moderately well-off or poor parents compared with trans kids who are born to considerably well-off parents who can afford to fly them to another country where they can get all the gender-affirming care they want. They can get surgery if they want in another country. Here, it's like, no, sorry, we're gonna ban puberty blockers even, which aren't even fucking invasive, aren't even harmful. They just block your puberty. You stop taking them, you go through puberty. Why? Why is there disparity? Why can you only be different if you're rich? You know, everyone else has to conform. Everyone else has to be heterosexual. Everyone has to be gender normative. Everyone has to be like, you know, fit into a little box. Meanwhile, the rich are running around the world doing what the fuck they like. But what upsets them? What really kills them every day when they wake up in a big fucking rage? Like, you know, J.K. Rowling, so angry all the time. Elon Musk, you know, hate tweeting in the middle of the night. Fucking Donald Trump sitting on his golden toilet. I'm so angry with everyone. I hate Taylor Swift. The reason why they're so angry is because if you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. They don't want us to have the same things that they have. Even things like cheap flights. One of the reasons why the rich supported Brexit was so that we couldn't afford cheap flights and couldn't just travel around Europe easily like what they can. Because it devalued the experience for them. They didn't want us getting cheap stuff, you know, buying things in the shop that didn't cost that much. They want us living hand to mouth. They want us to spend all our money on rent and food and energy bills and water and internet connection and not have anything left at the end of the week. That's what they want. That's the future that the rich want for the rest of us. and we've got to fight back on this. This isn't just about euthanasia. This is about us versus them. This is about equality and allowing people in this country who weren't spat out their mum's fudge into a big pile of fucking money to have some level of dignity in their life, whether that's being able to transition if they're trans, or having a death that is a good death. You say no death is a good death, but it's being able to be surrounded by your family when you slip away. That's what I want. That's what I'd want for anyone. And the rich can have it. The rich can have it, but we can't. Paula, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. This brings up one of my bugbears about Brexit. The number of people who lived, e.g., in France, who campaigned for Brexit. Yeah, because they knew it wouldn't affect them. They knew it wouldn't affect them. Meanwhile, there were people who it did affect massively who lived in Europe who weren't allowed to vote. There were people who were affected massively because they were EU citizens living here who weren't allowed to vote. Commonwealth citizens were allowed to vote. So if you're from Tuvalu or Canada or Rwanda, you could vote. I don't know if Rwanda was part of the Commonwealth in 2016, but Mozambique wasn't even a fucking part of the British Empire, and yet it's a member of the Commonwealth, and anyone from Mozambique who lives here could have voted. I think that came a bit later, but can vote today in British parliamentary elections, which just seems mad to me. If you're an EU citizen, you can only vote in local elections. So yeah, what else can the rich do? Well, they can pay for a decent education. Fast track their kid into the big time, even if they're completely incompetent, could not fit to run a bath. And clean water. Dental care. They get it. You don't. You have to sit there in fucking pain. The pain of toothache is like nothing else on earth. Anyone who is suffering from that just gets my sympathy. I don't care who they are. It really fucking hurts. And it's just that there's not much you can do about it because the pain relief that we're allowed in this country is not suboptimal, should we say? Because things like heroin have become, people don't, doctors, dentists, whatever, they don't want to prescribe heroin. It's got such a bad name. Maybe they should rebrand it. I don't know. Put an E on the end. But for the rest of us, we suffer and die in pain in underfunded hospices. We're denied the right to choose the manner of our own deaths, which the rich are afforded, you are not. We're criminalized for seeking agency over our own body, autonomy, compassion. And class is the ultimate gatekeeper for all this shit. This bill address, it starts to address that disparity in society. Because this isn't just about buying nice fancy things. I don't give a fuck if a rich person wants to waste all their money on a yacht or a fancy car with a personalized plate. I was thinking about that. You could employ someone. You could give someone a job for a year for the price of a fucking vanity plate on your car. But they don't, do they? They buy a fucking vanity plate. They don't employ someone. Oh, I make employment. No, you fucking don't. You buy a fucking souped up fucking roller skate and roll around town in it, and it makes too much noise. But yeah, I don't care if people buy stuff with their ill-gotten gains, with their slavery money, their blood money, their diamond money, their oil money, their filthy fuel money, whatever the fuck that money comes from. I don't care if they buy shit for themselves, trinkets, whores will have their baubles. But I do object in the most strenuous way when things like healthcare, education, transportation becomes a two-tier system in which the rich, the elite, the Nigel Farages and Boris Johnsons of this world get to live it up, and the rest of us have to squabble around in the dirt. And I struggle to see any justification for allowing rich people to do this, but not allowing everybody else to do it. If you're that bothered about it, stop the rich people doing it. Bring in a law. Say you're not allowed to go to Switzerland and end your own life. Go on. Off you pop, rich people. Go on, make that fucking law. Make it for yourself. You see, the thing is, Kemi Badenoch is rich. She went to a private school in Nigeria. Her predecessor, Rishi Sunak, is filthy fucking rich. He's one of the richest men in Britain. They don't care. If they want to end their own lives, they can go to Dignitas. They can go to Switzerland. They can go anywhere the fuck they like in the world. They know they can. So don't forget, when Kemi Badenoch says she's voting against this today, she's not voting against it knowing that it's going to affect her too. You know, this is like, there's a great scene in the TV show Boardwalk Empire in the first episode where the politicians and the gangsters all sitting around the table doing a toast to prohibition. And he says, in a few hours' time, this whiskey is going to be, it's going to be worth 5 times the amount. Great, because he's going to make shitloads of money out of it. Al Capone going to make shitloads of money out of it. They weren't bothered. They weren't going to be, doing worse because of it, because of the alcohol ban. They managed to get that through, didn't they? All the politicians sitting around the table, they were going to do well out of it because they were getting backhanders. I don't care. They weren't making that law for themselves. They were sitting there drinking. They knew they could continue to get all the alcohol they ever wanted because they had the money to do so. They were just taking alcohol away from the rest of society. They were taking alcohol away from black people, from the Chinese people, from the people from Ireland who had come over to work on the railways. They were having their alcohol taken away from them, or rations, It wasn't being taken away from the wealthy because they could afford it. And this happens time and time and time again, and we really need to call it out. That's my argument. Your mileage may vary, but that's where I stand on this matter. Class should not be the ultimate gatekeeper for stuff like this. Okay, so I'm just going to read a couple of messages. They're not different. They are eccentric, all a bunch of Miss Havishams. The Havishams and Havishams not. The shock of losing a parent might understandably make someone lash out, but really that was totally low and uncalled for thing to say. You're better off without them. That's a response to Joanna. Sorry, I don't know what Joanna said. It's further up here. I haven't spoken or seen in 10 years now. Also had no interest in talking or saying. That's fair enough. I don't blame you, says Trip Trip. My ex-wife said some real dark shit to me in some arguments, and they are unforgivable. I'm really sorry that you went through that. That sounds fucking shit. Martin says, my ex and I had a crazy time when we split. You really get to know someone after 9 years together. Met up 20 years later and we actually get on. I think I've been quite lucky that in my sort of big relationships in my life, none of them have ended badly. None of them have ended spitefully or with that kind of shit. And I'm still very close friends with my girlfriend from school and university and my Aussie girlfriend in Australia. We still chat, and my current partner, Kat, like we went to school together and then reconnected after 20 years, right? So she knows my ex from school because I was going out with him in school. So like I've not had that issue, but I can imagine just how horrible it must be, especially if you're madly in love with someone and they break your heart and say some really fucking horrible things. I can imagine how much that would hurt and how it would linger, for a long time afterwards. It would take a lot to get over that kind of shit. I mean, these MPs, these politicians, lawmakers all over the world want to make laws to protect us against ourselves, right? If they really wanted to protect us, right, they'll make a law against falling in love with the wrong person, because that causes more heartache, more devastation, more regret than anything else. Anne says she may have been deflecting some sneaking and possibly misplaced feeling of guilt on herself, but again, it's better to stick together than to blame each other. I had to take the Welsh NHS to court to get a referral to a Charing Cross when I started my transition. And when I asked for follow-up treatment, the Welsh NHS said no. I now suffer with anxiety. I'm really sorry, Sarah. That is awful. And it's so shit that, that if you were, you had loads of money yeah, you wouldn't have this problem. Chip Chip says, that's excellent, lol. Some people can laugh about the past. My ex didn't have that option, unfortunately. And says, my bigger cat kept jumping on the bed, getting a stroke, lying down for a snuggle, and decided it was too hot and jumping off again. Love her. Love cats. I took 26 codeine phosphate once, tried to dull a major tooth pain around 6 years ago. Didn't work. Still had to go to hospital for local anesthetic just so I could get some sleep. I'm an angry pagan, mate. My heart goes out to you. I know. I know what it's like. And, the one time that I've sort of had a problem with my teeth, I was really lucky. Do you know why I was lucky? I was in another country and dental was covered by my travel insurance. So that all worked out. I guess there is many ways of thinking about this as there are people, says Scott. Maybe. You stop trusting everyone is what happens, says Trip. It's hard. But in a way, like, there is the danger of being too trusting in people. And that can also be an issue as well. And there's trying to find that happy medium where you're happy to let people into your life. But also, I mean, like, I don't know how trusting I am, to be honest with you. I feel like I've been let down in my life so many times, especially by people who talk big. I don't like talkers. I don't like people who talk about a bunch of stuff but don't actually do it. As a doer, as someone who says, I'm going to go to Ukraine and drop a load of stuff off in Ukraine and bring back some refugees. I'm going to set up a website. I'm going to set up a GoFundMe. I'm going to film it as I go. I'm going to hire the van. I'm going to do this. I go and do it. I don't just say, one day, or the worst one is talk to somebody else who wants to do that thing and blow smoke up their arse and go, yeah, that sounds great. I'll fund this. I'll sort this out. So you're waiting for the funding to come from them. And then it doesn't come from them. Or they tell you to wait and keep waiting forever. It's usually connected with cocaine. I've found these people who waste your time in life. So yeah, I'm not that trusting of some people who seem to think that I have some magical ability to make things happen without money. And this is the thing that I think that rich cocaine talkers need to understand. You can't do shit without money. You need money just to get started. It's fact, you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of money, but you need money to get started. But yeah, people who just talk and talk and talk, and you just like, show me the money. The other thing I don't trust is like working for big companies. I'd much rather do a job for a local group here. So I've not worked filming stuff for quite a while now, and I need to update all my kit if I was going to do it. It's my old Sony HTV camera. That was a beast. That was a beast back in its day. Unfortunately, it stopped working. But I actually, it's an old relic, but I actually paid to get it fixed up. So you can see there. Oh shit! What just happened? Battery level is low. Oh well, there you go. You can't even see. You can't even see yourself. I was going to show the camera there. But yeah, I don't really film much anymore. But I used to. I used to do, and the gigs would get bigger and bigger. Like I'd end up doing stuff for like Fiat and Universal, like the studio Universal and stuff. And the bigger the company I worked for, the longer it took to get paid. Like I think I was waiting for 3 months once to get paid for like a £700 job that I did. And at the time, I was on income support, and I'm like, I really need this money. And they're like, oh, it's going through. And you end up sending so many emails and making so many phone calls. And it's a big waste of your time. It's time that you could be spent filming stuff or editing stuff or working on something else. Or, I don't know, having a nice time with your friends or your family. But, sod that. 2 cocaine addicts at a party. One says to the other, well, enough about me. What do you think about me? Says Amy Walker. Yes. I'm a talker, not a doer. I'm not very pleased at myself for it, but at least I don't boast that I will do something that I know I won't, and I never lie that I did it. Well, I mean, it's fair enough coming up with ideas, and I don't mean it like someone coming up with an idea and saying this would be cool to do. I'm talking about people who waste my time, who talk to me and just talk endlessly and don't actually do the things that need to be done in order to make the thing happen. Famously, there's this CIA document from like 1945, and it's how to disrupt organizations from within. And it's a brilliant document because, when you read it, you will know people who do that in meetings, in work, in whatever you're doing. There are people who just talk endlessly about bollocks, nothing to do with it. They delegate responsibility to someone who's just uniquely unqualified to do stuff. They come back to things that you think have been squared off. They go on rambling long anecdotes about their own life. I know I do that, but this isn't a meeting. This is a live stream. If I just stopped talking and let you write messages, it would get very boring very fast. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. People who waste my time. Time wasters. Graham, fancy a bag of smoky bacon crisps? Fuck yeah. Give me some smoky bacon crisps in here before they get banned. It's fine. My ex-girlfriend in Australia, her sister is a food technician for Kraft in Australia. And one of the things they have to do is change the ingredients and stuff all the time to make it taste the same. That was one of their jobs as a food technician. Quite ingenious. So you work on, say, Vegemite, which is made by Kraft over in Australia, and you got to make it tasting the same. Every jar's got to taste the same. But here's the thing. Stuff arrives throughout the year from different harvests, from different countries, from different stuff grown in different soils, with different amounts of elevation, different amounts of rainfall, all kind of things that subtly changes the taste of the ingredients that you put into the Marmite, which is what's left, or Vegemite in their case, which is what's left at the bottom of a barrel when you made real ale. You scrape it off the bottom of the barrel. That's Vegemite. That's Marmite. But yeah, and so their job was to make it taste the same. So if the artificial ingredients that we put into smoky bacon crisps to make them taste smoky bacon, the food technologists or technicians or whatever they call themselves, they will know a way of making it taste exactly the same using something else, because that's what they do. That's their entire job. I mean, I think that's really cool. Like, I can't really taste the difference between a lot of stuff. I'm terrible for wine. Like, I can tell if wine's off. I can tell if it tastes like vinegar. I can tell if it's red or white. That's about it. People are like, oh, you can taste the hollyhocks. And I'm like, what? This has got vanilla notes. I'm like, what? It's not taste the same to me. So there's people who have these very attuned taste buds and ways of tasting stuff. I think it's connected to the sense of smell, actually. They have a very good sense of, and then having the wherewithal to go, okay, that needs a bit more ingredient X to make the product that you're making always taste the same all year round. So I'm not concerned about the new EU regulations on smoky bacon crisps. I'm not as concerned as, I don't know, was it the Star the other day who were going apeshit about it? One Angry Pagan, thank you so much for the £10 super chat. All of me teeth are broken or already removed. Not down to drugs, but down to me for the longest time, not caring about myself and biscuits. Lesson being, love thyself or ye may end up like me. I'm sorry to hear that, mate. That's shit. But yeah, take care of yourself. Mike Dix from Trumpton, he put a great little cartoon on Facebook, which was saying self-care is future you looking after present you, which I really liked. So take time to look after yourself, all of you. Like, and this is, we feel all these pressures all the time to get shit done, but you know what? At the end of the day, as long as no one's gonna die, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. You know, I watched something the other day, and it really stuck with me about the mentality of like countries that we live in, like here, where everyone has to be on time. You know, people, if someone's late, everyone gets really agitated, and how different it is living somewhere in Bocas in Panama, Bocas del Toro, where no one's ever on time. Nothing ever happens when you want it to. Everything runs on Bocas time. And I found this in West Africa. Everything just ran on West African time. The bus left when the bus left. It wasn't important. And what was interesting was this idea that in agricultural societies and agricultural communities where time isn't necessarily of the essence. There's enough food for everyone. Somewhere like Bocas del Toro, where there's fish in the sea and there's fruit growing on the trees. Just grab yourself a mango, grab yourself a coconut. The that sort of impetus to be places on time isn't there. Meanwhile, in places like London, in Switzerland, in Germany, where in areas that are very urbanized and the trains run at a certain time, the meeting has to be at a certain time. We're very much geared towards freaking out all the time. We've got to be back at our car at a certain time because otherwise we're going to get a £100 parking ticket. And that stress that needing to be places all the time puts on us is not a good one. And some people go and live, a lot of Americans go and live in Bocas del Toro and they complain endlessly about how like nothing's very efficient. And I'm like, I actually prefer it this way. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Don't worry, let it go. Let it go. And this is something that I'll talk about about my journey around the world, especially in book 2 and book 3, when they're finally published, is that after the first year of running around like a blue arse fly around the world, 133 countries in 1 year, plus about 5 quasi-independent territories. And I was legging it. I was absolutely legging it. I got really upset when things weren't on time and things didn't go the way I wanted them to. And when's this boat going to leave? And how long is this visa taking? After that, I just kind of kicked back a little bit. I was like, fuck it. I'm the first to do this. No one's done it before. Doesn't matter if it takes me 4 years. I'll still get the Guinness World Record, which I did. So yeah. Everyone be aware, 35 degrees and 95 degree humidity. It's 95% humidity, exceeds human biological limits, means you're unable to sweat. Yeah, keep cool today, everyone who's not in Durham. Was neglected as a kid. Kind dentist saved my teeth age 11. Decent mouth since, and I'm manic about care. That's from Mr. Tisk. You know what, Mr. Tisk? I had really good dentists as a kid. I took care of my teeth. I brush my teeth twice a day. And I remember I was in Australia in 2002. So I would have been 23 years old. And I remember my girlfriend at the time had a few fillings. And I was like, I've got no fillings, I've never had a filling. And she's like, the next day, a bit of one of my tooth fell out. I had to go to the dentist and get a filling. And she was like, I distinctly remember you bragging. I remember you bragging about not having a filling, like literally the next day. So just be careful with that. Just don't, try not to brag too much. Chaos, awesome. Hair is my first priority because I feel it's really affecting me. I still wonder if I'm doing the right thing, even though I'm comfortable with she hair. Nice one, Graham, says Trip. Scott says, Simon, without the doubt, the best thing in life is my family, not just words. Fact for me, I wish that on all. Yeah, I mean, it's your family and friends. It's your community. That's what's the most important in life. Community and your health. Everything else, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Just calm down. Someone's a bit late or someone doesn't call you. It's funny that I got diagnosed with ADHD earlier this year. And it's funny because so many of my friends who have also been diagnosed with ADHD, because we tend to gravitate towards each other, they've been sacked off by other friends of mine who are neurotypical. Why have they been sacked off? Because they always flake out. They don't turn up to stuff. They always turn up late. They might not turn up at all. They never call you to say, hey, do you want to come out and do stuff? It's always you calling them. And I was just a bit more forgiving. I always was more forgiving about people not calling me, because I always saw myself as the organizer. I was always the one who put things together, who had the house parties, who had put on gigs and put on comedy nights and all that kind of stuff for me friends and family. And even now you're putting on talks at conference and things like that, which I'd like to do more of, to be honest with you. It's just time. I just don't have enough time to do all the stuff that I want to do, and also rest. Like force myself to rest, force myself to like wind down, and it's difficult. I'm like, oh wow, I've got 40 minutes. Okay, so if I watch this TV show that I want to watch on 1.5 speed, then I should be able to just finish. Like, okay, that's done. Next thing. But yeah, I was always a bit more forgiving, and I guess now I just had that sort of attitude of like, I guess I understood it, even though I didn't know I had ADHD, and I didn't really understand the fact that if you got ADHD, it's out of sight, out of mind. Like I honestly forget which friends I have in Liverpool when I go to Liverpool, and I'll go to Liverpool and I'll spend a few days there, and I'll get back and oh shit. Why didn't I get in touch with Mary? Oh, why didn't I get in touch with Lorna? Why didn't I get? And then so I've made a list on my phone. I've made a list. I've told you this before. I've made a list on my phone of my friends in Liverpool. Otherwise, I forget. Otherwise, I literally forget. So anyway, let's get back to this bill. This big, beautiful bill. If passed, this moves to the House of Lords for debate and more scrutiny. If rejected, the bill dies. So this is the thing. This isn't the end of it if it wins, but it is the end of it if it loses. Leadbeater has warned it could be another decade before it returns to Parliament. Parliament has long resisted assisted dying bills despite the public support for them. And, the possible amendments in Lords could include tighter safeguards, expansion to other groups, or restriction. So there's more that could be done, and the Commons has a final say on this. So to kill it now just seems bonkers to me, because all the things that the people who are objecting to it want put in place, it can be still put in place. This isn't the final bill by any stretch of the imagination. Then we've got comparisons with previous bills in 2021. Baroness Meacher, her bill passed the second reading but ran out of time, unfortunately. In 2015, Rob Maris's bill was defeated in the Commons. In 2014, Lord Faulkner's bill passed in the Lords, but it failed before the election in 2015. And each bill, it tightens safeguards, and it is built on public support. And don't forget, if you're interested in safeguards, right, there's no safeguard at the moment against you coercing someone in your family if you're dead rich and you stand in line for the fortune coming your way, all kind hearts and coronets, right, from coercing them to go to Switzerland. Nothing to stop you. Whereas this bill will bring in something to stop people doing that. Forcing people to endure, agonizing death is not moral superiority. It's cruelty. It's cruelty. You're torturing people. You are inflicting needless pain on people for no reason. Like, I can't imagine how anyone... I find it difficult to understand why people wouldn't want this to be legal and regulated and with strong, robust laws against people being coerced into it. But for me, the right to die is fundamentally about autonomy and dignity. And autonomy and dignity and agency that is afforded to the wealthy, that is not afforded to the rest of us. That's the important thing here. If you want to make it illegal for everyone. And while you're at it, set inheritance tax to 100%, because otherwise it's just encouraging younger generations to coerce their parents to jump off a cliff in it. Assisted dying is not about devaluing life. It's about individuals choosing the point at which their suffering becomes unbearable and they wish to slip away. With dignity and painlessly. And, respecting the choices of the dying does not harm the living. It protects them. And there is broad public support for this. I can't, it varies by poll, but it's consistently strong. Medical bodies increasingly support assisted dying frameworks. The opposition is shrinking and looking increasingly out of touch. It's all the rich people who know that they will not be affected. It's fine for them. They can still get assisted dying. Kemi Badenoch will vote against this today in the full knowledge that if she wants it, she can have it. You can't. And, expect fear-mongering from the right, slippery slope. What about the vulnerable, etc. They don't really give a fuck. They don't care. They don't care about disabled people. They never did. They never will. They care about keeping everyone else down. That's why they're saying it. There's some on the left who object to it, who do actually care about the vulnerable, who care about disabled people. And that's fair enough. that's the way they want to look at it. But I can't see it that way. I just genuinely can't see it that way. And we can look at examples where this has worked in Oregon, in Switzerland, in Canada, in the Netherlands, where they have assisted dying, and it's fine. It's fine. Dignity shouldn't be a luxury. Dignity in death should not be a luxury. That's my overwhelming message of the show today. If you can't afford a flight to Zurich, if you can't afford end-of-life care, if you're trapped in pain with no choice, you deserve the same options as someone who was born into unimaginable wealth. This isn't about enduring life. This is about enduring suffering, ending life. It's about forcing people to endure suffering. And like I say, the rich, the filthy rich, the people who have made money through cruelty, through doing evil shit. The people who have made money through doing evil shit. They get to do this. Murdoch will get this. Murdoch will be fine. When Murdoch decides that it's time for Murdoch to go, Murdoch will go. He'll just press a button. And his body will be flooded with morphine and he'll go to sleep. The vote is today. If you have any means of contacting your MP immediately, an email won't cut it, but if you maybe have their phone number or something, maybe consider writing them a message, something along the lines of, I'm writing to ask you to please consider voting in favour of the assisted dying bill today. As I've said today, at present the wealthy can already access assisted dying by travelling to Switzerland, just as they can access private healthcare, private dental treatment, decent mental health support, top education, and even drugs without fear of arrest. They can afford dignity even in death. But for the rest of us, especially those who are terminally ill and suffering, that same dignity is denied. This is about compassion, fairness, and equality. No one should have to suffer needlessly just because they're not rich. That's my argument. And we might be able to poke holes in it. I'll have a look in the chat if anyone can, but I think it's a pretty solid argument for voting aye on this bill today. What time will we find out the result? I don't know. I haven't looked at the parliamentary timetable. It just depends. I imagine there'll be a debate beforehand, so we'll see how long that goes on for. Let me just have a look. I will have a look on the parliamentary timetable for you, my friend, because I'm nice like that. Oh, channels, Parliament, BBC schedule. Okay, so House of Lords, Iran and Israel statement, Gibraltar, KC report statement. Well, I'm 10-minute bill, birth certificates, select committee, Lord's questions, 10-minute bill, positioning of letterboxes. A bill on the positioning of letterboxes in new build homes and new front doors. Oh, okay. Scottish Parliament. Okay, that's all the Scottish Parliament stuff. The answer is I don't know. It's not on the BBC iPlayer necessarily what time that debate is scheduled for today, but we know that it is today. Okay, so we're going to go to the papers in a moment. Yep, I'm the same. Also find it difficult to focus on tasks I don't like, so I avoid them, and then I manic times trying to get them done. Lol. That's what I do as well. Lee, I always used to be late for everything, but I've worked hard to make sure I'm always on time. It bugs me that my brother is always late and his wife is even worse. It's late squared. Yeah, but you know what's even worse, Lee? People who turn up early. Like if you, I'm not talking about turning up when there's like a gig on or something or a live debate. That's very handy when people turn up early to that to help out. Cheers. But when because I'm a bit last minute, right? So you can imagine, like, I tell people to get to my house for like 7 o'clock for a party, thinking that people will actually turn up around 7:30, 8 o'clock, right? Because I'm still cleaning up. I'm still cleaning the fucking place. I'm still like, knee deep in dusting the shelves, doing the dishes, whatever the fuck it is. And then it's like ding dong, and you're like, oh fuck. So yeah, sometimes, Lee, yes. People who arrive a little bit early can be a little bit like, oh, okay, can you just stand there while I finish tidying up? One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. The wealthy require the Untermensch. True. Thanks anyway, Graham. No worries. I'm the best procrastinator, but I also forgot about the task until the last minute. My brain just thinks, oh, you got plenty of time, do everything else. Lol. Yeah, that sounds like ADHD. I turned up early at the docks yesterday. She was late, though. I also handed in a Palantir sharing opt-out form as well. Yeah, I think that's something that we should all do, by the way. I'm going to make a note of it. Palantir opt-out. Why is it an opt-out? It should be a fucking opt-in. I swear. The way Graham said today reminds me of the way David Bowie sang today. The stars look very different. Bowie's in space. Sorry. A bit of the Flight of the Conchords coming in there. I won't sing again, I promise. Right. The Daily Times here. Or just the Times, innit? Higher council bill taxes in the south, reform refunds in the north. Yes. Divorce proof your summer. Get a prenup. Consultants NHS strike threat for 35% pay rise. Okay. Trump steps back from brink of bombing Iran. He's going to give it a 2-week pause as a baby being evacuated by a very young woman because they have 18-year-olds or like have to do the army shit in Israel. Stick-star bombshell glitter. I'm a danger. Pop pedo accepts he's not fit to go free and still interested in young girls. Well, finally. Okay, good. I don't know why that's a front page of news, though. Oh, my God. For the 3rd day in a row, we have the same fucking picture of Kate wearing a jaunty hat from the family up the road with the jaunty hat on. 3rd day in a row, mate. Wow. And then Zara, who looks exactly the same as her. I mean, they're kind of interchangeable, aren't they? Or posh white people look the same to me. Zara keeps her cool at the races, but it's getting hotter. Jenrick, I'll vote no to assisted dying for my nana's sake. Robert Jenrick today makes an emotional appeal against assisted dying. What the fuck? Hang on, I thought the Mail was for it the other day. Are they against it now? Writing in the Mail, Miss Jenrick reveals how he helped look after his grandmother Dorothy as a teenage boy and how she continues to bring joy to the family as she defied a terminal diagnosis for nearly a decade. Yeah. What? No, just whatever. The Star, a thing about Ascot, which is a horse race, I think, and there's some people wearing jaunty hats. Royal Ascot. See what they've done there, because it's going to be hot today. Not in Durham. Come to Durham. Get on the train. Come to Durham. Daily Express, as MPs prepare for last chance for years to vote on assisted dying, a curable breast cancer. Sophie Blake, 52, makes final plea. Allow us the choice to have a good death. So the Mail is against it. The Express is for it. Which is a bit confusing for people who buy both, I guess. Safe house that you built open doors to survivors of abuse. This is the first time I slept properly in months. The children the happiest in a long time. First family staying at refuge built by readers' contribution. Well, that's nice. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? I don't see why it should be built by readers' contribution, though. I think it should be built by the fucking government. PM urges Trump, keep cool, don't ramp up conflict. Starmer signals only path to peace is through return to diplomacy. Yeah, I would say that as well. There's a dog that is morphed into a star-faced mole. How Dua Lipa made books sexy. Secret to sleeping in the heat. If you want my secret, right? This is what I used to do when I was in like a very, very hot country, an actually very hot country like Egypt or in like the Arabian desert or somewhere. Go and have a cold shower, get a t-shirt or top and knickers and or briefs, boxer shorts, whatever you wear, right? Go and have a shower, cold shower. Then lay down a towel on the bed, lie on the towel in your wet clothes. That's my top tip. Your mileage may vary, but and always make sure it's someone else's towel Because it's not going to smell good in the morning. Anyway, moving on. Captain Coconut. We find that when the Daily Fail knows which way the political breeze is blowing, it will give up its fight and do a 180, primarily because it looks better to them to be on the winning side. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the number of people who are saying they're going to vote the other way in this bill. My MP, Mary Foy, voted against it to start with. So I'm just hoping that she's going to change her mind. But, I mean, that argument of like, I don't want to be a burden, I don't want to be a burden, that shouldn't be a reason for allowing assisted dying. It just shouldn't. And I think that's why it's so important to have that panel of people, including a psychiatrist, to make sure that isn't the reason why they want to go. Books were sexy before Dua Lipa existed in her daddy's nutsack. Yeah. Had to sit with a grumpy male reading pensioners on train from Manchester to Southport yesterday. Ugh, I'm sorry. We find that when the Daily Fail knows which way the political breeze is blowing, it will give up its fight and... Oh, I've read that one. Lee Corn says, when I lived in Kent, my bro was going to drive down for the weekend. My girlfriend had bought a train ticket, but he said he'd give her a lift. I'll pick up from Stockport Centre now. He turned up 4 hours later. Oh my God. It's the worst, isn't it? Like when someone says they'll do something for you and then like don't do it. It's like, please don't say you're going to do something if you're not going to do it. Just don't offer your services and then just do it or do it badly. Because obviously if someone says they'll do it, you're not going to keep looking for someone else. You feel bad saying, oh, it's all right, I've got someone, when you haven't. But you would have got someone else who was a bit more competent. Anyway, back to the papers. And our little dog shaking his head. That's one way to cool off. Labour MPs turn on assisted dying bill, vote on knife edge as backbenchers switch sides and urge their colleagues to reject it. Labour MPs have turned against the assisted dying bill at the 11th hour, urge their colleagues to vote down the drastically weakened plans. They're not drastically weakened, though. I would say they've been strengthened. However, today's vote is said to be on a knife edge after a series of controversies about the changes to the bill that critics say weaken the proposals. I'll give you last chance for deal, Trump tells Ayatollah. So, yeah, that's to do with Trump giving 2 weeks for the things to simmer down in the Middle East, because the last thing Trump wants to do is make a decision. Cost of new passport could rise by £32 in latest blow for travellers. Ministers have been urged to increase the £95 passport renewal fee in a move that will affect millions of Britons this year. Wow. It's a lot of money. It's all right if you're rich, though. There's a story here as well, which I want to highlight, which is about Stephen Fry, who has changed his mind about J.K. Rowling. Finally! Thanks, Steve! Thanks, Steve, for finally coming on our side. Waking up. Sorry, I had the microphone there. Thank you. Well done. Well done, Steve. Dickhead. Better late than never, I guess. J.K. Rowling has been radicalised by TERFs, so Stephen Fry has claimed. It is the first time the comedian and television presenter who narrated all 7 Harry Potter books has criticised his former friend, describing her as a lost cause, which she is. Serial rapists plea for chemical castration. One of Britain's most prolific serial rapists offered to undergo chemical castration in the hope of avoiding a sentence. I don't think they should avoid a sentence. I think it should just be part of it. The option is there. So you're working from home, use a high factor sun cream and move your sun lounger to the shade. Fuck off. That's the Daily Telegraph making a joke about people who work from home, like me and my partner, because we don't work hard enough. We just sit in the garden all day. I wish I could sit in the fucking garden all day. Jesus Christ. Hunted by PhD rapist. This is the guy who just said he would be chemically castrated. I lost faith in humans. How could some people do such terrible things? And George, you're a sex predator who used people as toys. Obviously, content warning on this one. That's the front cover of a newspaper. But this guy, he's raped upwards of, I think, more than 100 women. It was about 11 women that. Oh, so that's a good thing. What's not a good thing is I've just lost connection. Come on, reconnect. Sorry, my internet just dropped out. I don't know why. There's no one else in the house. There's no one else using the internet. I don't know why that just dropped out. Sorry. Financial Times here. Trump raises prospect of Iran talks and sets countdown on joining war, which we mentioned. This was the Iranian state TV building that was bombed during a live broadcast, which is just absolutely fucking insane. And you can see CNN, I think, was allowed to walk around it yesterday. The footage from it is just fucking crazy. HMRC accused of losing control after small business tax take falls 40% short. There you go. And we'll go to the next one. I've done that one. Sorry. I will go to the last. Oh no, that's it. That's it. Finished. Sorry. That last one wasn't very interesting. It kind of sent me a little bit to sleep. So the last thing I want to just mention is that there were some local elections last night, and Labour's best week since the 1st of May. They held Adder constituency. Reform's most disappointing results so far, although they did get a strong gain in North Yorks. These are local by-election stuff that's going on because a lot of refuckers decided that they didn't want to actually be a councillor. The Lib Dems pulled off the result of the night with the help of tactical voting, etc. In Surrey, and Tories are still waiting for a by-election hold. They haven't held a single by-election, I don't think, in the last few months. And Greens made no progress against Labour in Sefton, but that's not typical territory for the Greens. But yeah, so in Ashford, the Lib Dems won. They were up 27.4%. In fact, that must mean they didn't even try in the last one. But this is a local election. This is a local by-election, so there's only about like 5 people voting in it. But still, it's a good sign that refuck isn't as popular as it likes to make out, because people are seeing what they're like actually in power, and they're generally shit at it, my friends. Shit at it. Missed most of this one, says Billy. Ooh, naughty, naughty Billy. How bloody dare you miss this? Anyway, no, if you have an opportunity to write to your MP in a way that they will see today, don't email them because they might not see that. Please do. A couple of switches might make all the difference on this. I think it's going to be really, really tight. I think that the bill could fall by just literally a handful of votes, maybe even one vote, which would really, really suck, because it's going to put this back another 10 years. What do some people have strong enough Wi-Fi they can connect from the back garden? Because I know it gets noticed pretty quickly when I take a break. You want to get those things, the amplifier things, what are they called? Range extender. Get a range extender. It's pretty fucking obvious if someone's in the garden in a meeting. Where was the journalist when they wrote that article, Dollars to Donuts, when they weren't in office? I don't know. I was giving my bro grief because she stood in the town centre on her own, waiting for him, and he said, "But I'm doing her a favour." No, you're not. She would have already been here if she got the train. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Indeedy. Yes, indeedy. Right, so I'm going to wind down now because we have more shows for you today. We have at 1 o'clock, me and Phil Morehouse will be discussing the week in British politics, shit that's been going down. So please join us for that. We'll be discussing how shit Kemi Badenoch is, and also how our friend Angela Rayner did in Deputy PMQs this week. We'll be talking about assisted dying, I guess, a little bit. I don't know if the results will be coming through by then. I don't think it will, but you never know. And then tonight at 9:30, we're going to have Morning Brew. Morning Brew, fuck me. Tonight, we're going to have the Friday night social in the evening. In the night time, which is why it's got the Friday night social, not the Morning Brew social. We're going to have Morning Brew at 9. Morning Brew, I've said it again. I'm going to have to go because my brain isn't working. I say that, you people keep me sane, but I'm still a bit under the weather. I don't know if you've noticed in the last couple of weeks, I'm just not my normal self. Um, I mean, maybe you think I'm always like this, but I've been having real difficulty saying the words that I want to say like out loud. Normally, it just comes to me like I can rattle stuff off, but if I'm not feeling like particularly alert, I just drop into this thing where I can't remember the names of like really simple shit. It drives me up the wall. I'm like that you know, the thing that you the spoon, the spitters. So yeah, sorry about that. So 1 o'clock today, the agenda with Phil Morehouse. 9:30 tonight, after Aid and after Maximilian do their live streams at 7:30 and 8:30 respectively. We'll be doing the Friday Night Social here on Politics Social. Please join us for that, and we'll have a little bit of bants. I might crack open a beer or two, and we'll unwind after another stupid week on this stupid planet, people doing stupid shit. But at least we've got a sense of humor about it, and that's how we win, my friends. That is how we win. We keep our sense of humor because that is the last thing. That is the one thing they cannot take from us. They may take our freedom of movement. They may take our right to assisted dying. They may take our right to do all this kind of shit, right? They may take all the top jobs because that's what the rich people do. But they can't take our sense of humor. Yeah. Yes. It's important. So flash someone a smile today. And stay positive, because I know it's shit at the moment, but things invariably get better over time. And at least as a community, we've found each other and we like hanging out, which is nice. So thanks for watching. Thank you for the super chats, especially. Thanks for the messages that have come in. Give us a like on the way out. Me and Brock the Badger here are off to have some breakfast. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.